Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Illustration Department podcast. My name is Giuseppe Castellano. In this podcast, I talk to folks in illustration, graphic design, publishing, animation, and other creative fields about their work, the lessons they've learned, and the bumps and bruises they've experienced along the way. In this episode, my guest is award-winning illustrator, fine artist, and dreamer, Charly Palmer. If your art could talk, what would it say about you? Be careful with this question. As Charly and I discuss, it's not as easy to answer as it sounds. Among other topics, Charly shares why he focuses on doing better and on putting love out into the world. We discuss why artists should work on their relationship with their art. And Charly explains why he thinks there's no such thing as a self-taught artist. I hope you enjoy our conversation. I understand your mother, Irma, was a big supporter of you as an artist. We have that in common. Not your mother, but my mother was a supporter of me.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, don't tell me your mother's name was Irma. That's crazy, but I have encountered other Irmas.
Yeah, she, her condo is essentially an art gallery of my work. From like teen years to now.
Right.
I don't know. I was about to say it's a little embarrassing, but it's not embarrassing. It's sweet.
You know what? It's funny. It's like I've run into a situation that when my mom passed, she's been gone almost 18 years now.
Yeah.
But family members have come across some of the stuff my mother had kept.
Right.
And they're all holding it hostage. Like, this stuff is probably worth a lot of money now. I'm like, it's not really. It's more like sentimental value to me. Can you please send it to me? And I have relatives that have had it for years, and they will not send it to me because they want money. And I'm like, then keep it. But it's not very good work. It's just, I remember like when I was in college doing that particular piece, you know?
Right. Exactly. I mean, maybe, Charly, they want money from you, you know?
Yeah, they do. They do. They want me to pay. And I'm not going to do it. You can just keep it if that's the case.
My dad, though, my mom, to this day, my mom is just like, everything you do is gold. But my dad wasn't as much of a supporter as me as an artist. Mm-hmm. He wanted something more practical, more braggable. Like, my son's an architect, you know?
Right.
Yeah, it was, you know, I don't want to be fair to him, I don't want people to cancel him or anything, but like, he just had a different view of what art could be. Mm-hmm. And my mom just was like, oh, you want to be an artist? Done. I support you. I'm taking you to galleries. That sort of thing.
I think, and I think that's what we do. It's like my daughter is in her first year of college.
Yep.
And like, don't commit to something that you probably won't want to do for at least 10 years. So take every class you can.
Yep.
Because you may find something there that really speaks to you. And like too many times, especially as young people, we make these decisions and then we're kind of tied to it. Although we realize early on, it's like, I don't think I want to do this. And like, that's okay. I was fortunate enough to just want to illustrate and want to do art. And so I knew very early. So it was just trying to figure out where I fit.
Right.
And I think that's part of the journey.
For sure. The opposite is true as well. I have my daughter she's a couple of years from college, but she's already sort of saying no for like these prospective schools that she might want to apply to. She's like, well, I'm not going to apply to that school. Well, why not? Oh, because they're not going to accept me. I'm like, how do you know that? So I think as well, my son does too, and he's about to go to college. There's that feeling of saying no for other people, to which I say always to them, don't ever say no for someone else.
Right.
Try it.
I get that.
Let them say no for themselves, if they say no at all.
Right. It's fascinating to me.
Yeah, me too. I don't know if I would have become a professional in the arts were it not for my mom. Same for you?
I would say, yeah, definitely. My mother was even one to say enough. I don't even know what you're talking about, Charly. I don't know anything other than the idea of starving artists, but you seem to really want to do this. Well, let me do my best to open up avenues to see that you can at least experience it. You know, and what was funny was I was coming from a space where I had an older brother and a younger brother that were both into art, but they were also athletes and into other things where it was like, no, I like athletics. I like basketball. I like football. but I love this thing here where I'm sitting down and creating. And I think this is what I want to seriously pursue. It's funny to watch them now try to get back to it, but it's like, you understand, I have a 40-year jump on you. You put it aside and now you're trying to come back to it. I've been working on it that whole time, you know?
Yeah. And then you paid her back by changing your name when you got into college.
Yeah, and she thought I was just trying to be really different. I'm like, I just have never cared for Charlie as a name. So it's like, if nothing else, let me be artistic about how I spell it, you know, if nothing else.
So what was it? Was it IE before?
It was IE, yeah. And still on all my legal papers, IE. I was telling somebody, actually, yeah, my car broke down, and I had been waiting for the summer to purchase a new car. And because I don't like car notes, but I wasn't ready to buy yet. But my engine light came on for a second time in like less than a month and a half.
Right.
And I'm like, you know what? It's probably time to get the car. We were sitting down, we were doing all the paperwork, and the guy said, well, your name is, you know, CHRLY. I'm like, well, no, legally, it's still IE. I said, but what's fascinating about it is, like, I've been using LY since college, and only twice in my lifetime can I recall going to a bank and having an issue with a check that has LY on it. Only twice in my whole 40 years.
I could see that being, I don't know, man. You're lucky, I guess, because I could see that being a headache.
Yes.
Officially speaking.
Yeah, so I can't travel. I don't travel anywhere without, you know, like ID that simply says IE. And also I run into problems because I am a junior. So sometimes they'll say, oh, sir, this ID doesn't match because this says Charly Palmer or Charlie Lee Palmer, but it doesn't say Charlie Lee Palmer Jr.
Right.
That's like, oh, Lord. Okay. But that's I've had more problems with that than I had with the bank.
Well, we have that in common as well. I'm also a junior.
Are you?
Yeah.
See, what's really weird not weird, it's just custom. Like I'm little Charlie. And my dad has been gone now 10 years.
Right.
And at some point I actually outgrew my dad, but I was still little Charlie. Or it wasn't little, it was Lil Charlie.
Right, little Charlie.
And and I got so used to it that I didn't realize it until I was a teenager. And my friends looked at me one day and said, what did your mother just call you? And I'm like, Charlie. Says, no, she said something else. I'm like, no, she said Charlie. And I'm like, Mom, she said it. And I'm like, oh, I don't even hear it anymore.
Yeah. We have that in common. So I am pretty tall. I'm 6'4", and I come from an Italian family who are all 5'5", 5'6". Right. Maybe my dad's 5'8", maybe, probably not. And I got, you know, teased throughout my childhood for being as tall. Like, why are you so tall? It's because I'm American and I eat too many hamburgers and you know, that sort of thing. I go to McDonald's too much. At the time, I was like, yeah, that's funny. But now I'm thinking, looking back on it, going like, are they right? Did I just eat a lot of chemicals and steroids and I got tall? Whatever. So my dad's Giuseppe, I'm Giuseppe Jr. And in Italian custom, when you have something that's little, you add like an ino or an ina or an etta or etto at the end of it. So my dad's Giuseppe. In my family, I'm Giuseppino, little Giuseppe. Yep.
That's cool.
It's shortened to Pino.
Pino.
So my family calls me Pino, which means little Giuseppe, and officially I'm Giuseppe. So
I love that.
Yeah. Let's talk about art. We have artists listening to this podcast. Who gives a crap about naming conventions? Over 4 decades, you've been both a children's book illustrator and a gallery artist, among other creative ventures. Where did you find more hurdles?
You know, it's funny. I think that's a really great question. It's not in either one. It is being told over and over again to make a choice. You either got to be an illustrator or an artist, but you can't be both. And I could continually from college, because I went to a commercial art school as well, is why not? Why can't I have both?
Right.
And the question always is, why not? You know, I look at a Donald Glover, who's a great writer, actor, and rapper.
Absolutely.
It's like, why not?
Exactly.
And so, like, for me, I really love doing illustration assignments. Quite honestly, I find doing illustration assignments, especially with children's books, more difficult than doing fine art. When I'm preparing for a major art exhibit, that's a breeze because I'm simply being Charlie. But when it comes to doing a children's book, I'm aware of the audience. I'm aware of the readers. In certain cases, because it's not the children, and then I'm aware of trying to communicate a lot, and so I'm in my head a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like let's face it, when you're doing a children's book, you're illustrating no less than possibly 20 scenes.
Sure.
And getting that all right and trying to create the consistency and everything like that. That's a harder job. And
Right.
so it really was saying, hey, I want them both. And that was the bigger challenge then. Like, because when I go into my fine art mode, I'm never having to think how people might interpret it or what I know what I'm trying to communicate, but it's not that important that I necessarily communicate that, because I have to accept that even if I painted it about love, everybody's experience of love is different. So I cannot say your experience has to be my experience.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, since the 90s, since I got into the children's book arena, I've met, hired, mentored countless illustrators. I don't think I've ever encountered one person who's had an easy go of it. Like, there have been challenges, however you want to look at it. I mean, people look at love differently. People look at challenges differently. Some really hard ones, some really painful ones, and some sort of like ones like, get out of your own way. Don't, do your own, try work a little bit more. Maybe that's a challenge. People just don't put the work in, or the whole spectrum. Mm-hmm. As I understand it, you've had your fair share. And this is, using your words, challenges, tests, and closed doors. So can you expand on closed doors?
One of the honest things, like as an illustrator, it's like, unfortunately, I had really great teachers along the way. Mm-hmm. But I had a teacher back in art school that said, if you can draw the human form in any perspective, any angle, any direction, and learn and study that form very well, you can pretty much illustrate anything. And I think one of the odd things early on in my journey as an illustrator was, hey, you do people very well, but can you draw trees? You know what I mean? Or can you do animals? And it's like, I've learned, like, fortunately, as my journey, I've learned to see differently. Right. And I think what it is being able to simplify the form and see. And so it's like, I'm always like or like even these days, because a large majority, almost all the work that I do, the images are Black people. So it's like, oh, you paint Black people very well. Can you paint white people? And I'm like, yes. But it's like, I get it, because you don't see any examples. And I know that what we're doing, we're in an industry that is visual.
Sure.
And so, like, even when it comes to teaching, it's like I can explain certain things, but when I show you, it's like, aha. And I found that over and over again when I'm explaining something, but I show it, and then all of a sudden they get it when they see it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. That applies to me so hard. I cannot follow directions if it's spoken to me, or if I read it. I have to see it, or else I won't be able to do it.
Yeah. I discovered it. I remember in high school, we used to have, like, because I was in Wisconsin, and the weather would be really bad during the wintertime, so we couldn't go out and play during lunchtime or whatever recess. And so, because it was so cold, they would show films. Mm-hmm. And one day, one of the teachers had this bright idea of having students write a report on the film they watched. And I excelled at writing it because I saw it. Yeah. And they're like, why is it I'll read one of these books and do an awful book report, but I saw it and could describe what I saw in detail. Yeah. So I realized I'm a visual learner.
Yep, me too. Almost to a fault. I wish I sometimes get frustrated with people who are describing things to me. Like, I'm at the hardware store and I'm asking someone to help me understand how to do a thing. And they're explaining it to me, and I just like, my eyes start glazing over, and I say, like, look, man, I just can't, I don't get it. Can you explain it to me another way? I'm not seeing it. And I'll say that often. I'll be like, I'm just not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. Right. Yeah, I need to work on that. Speaking of working on things, you've worked on a variety of projects with clients from Time Magazine to the United States Postal Service to John Legend and Selena Gomez and everything in between. Mm-hmm. To what do you attribute the opportunities you've had to spread the love, so to speak?
That's where it gets complicated. For me, I think it's spiritual. I cannot explain it any other way, because there are times opportunities have come my way that I've either prayed for or imagined, because it's very much about, I think, creative visualization. I begin, like this morning, a good morning is when I say, do better. And every morning I wake up saying, I can do better. And it helps drive me to push myself further. When I got the opportunity to do the NBA 2K assignment, right? Ronnie, who became a friend of mine, had sent me 3 emails that I deleted because I didn't understand why this guy was like harassing me almost, because it was kind of like one of those things. He wasn't saying very much. He would say, hey guys, hey bro, let's work together. I'm like, okay. And I deleted it. And he said, hey, are you in or out? Because I think I got some great. I'm like, I don't do video. I don't know what he's talking about. I don't play. I don't. Not that I don't illustrate athletes or anything like that. I don't play video games. Why is this video guy continually contacting me? But fortunately, he finally reached out to my agent, and my agent called and said, hey, this guy's for real. But he says, you're not responding. I was like, because I didn't know what he wanted. And then once I realized what he wanted, I'm like, wow, this is like a dream come true assignment. And I'm thankful that he was persistent, because I almost dismissed it.
Is that a mantra? Do better? I mean, do you actively think it or say it in the morning?
It actively, like, because the thing is, it's not so much about art, but it is. But I see so many acts of kindness and love, especially in this world that we're living in right now, where it's like, it like I actually, let's keep it real. Like talking to my therapist last week, I'm like, I am just deeply, like, it was funny. I told her I was everything but what I thought I was telling her. And that was, I'm sad, I'm hurt, I'm a bit angry, I'm feeling all these things. I'm feeling exhausted, overwhelmed. I'm feeling all these things. I'm like, I wake up in the morning and I go to bed tired. I don't know what's going on. She said, you're depressed. I'm like, didn't I say that? She said, no, you said everything but you're depressed. But that was the opening of kind of dealing with what I was going through, because part of it was this idea. It's like, you've taken on some assignments that are draining you. You're trying to do this fine art thing. And so you're going to need to start letting go of some things. And what she said, which I loved, she said that you treat this world and everything with a certain urgency. And I'm like, yeah, because, I'll be turning 65 this summer, and I don't know how many years I got left. So, yeah, I want to get everything that's in my head done before I'm gone. And I know that's not realistic, but that's why I think I approach everything with an urgency and say yes to so many assignments. But now it's like, you know what? I'm at a point where I'm just feeling overwhelmed by all of it. So it's like, put it on the shelf. And if you still want to do it in 6 months and you have some free time, do it. But don't keep saying yes to everything. And so that's what I'm doing now, is like coming into my studio and saying, put it on the shelf. That is something that's going to go on the shelf because you got these other things that are really important to you. Focus on those other things right now.
Yeah, we have that in common as well. It's funny. I didn't plan for any of that commonality, but a couple of things there. I have a morning mantra too. It's not do better. It's get it done. My alarm is named Get It Done. And it just kind of helps me set the tone because years ago, I also lived with depression. It was pretty bad, and I won't get into how bad it was, but let's just, however you're imagining how bad it could get, it got there. And I had a therapist. I had several therapists, actually, but one of them just kept telling me everything was going to be okay, and I hated her for that, because she didn't know that, so I gently fired her. The other one would often say, and I wonder now, it didn't occur to me until just this minute, but I do wonder now if I'm in this get it done mode because of that, because of all the time I lost. She said, just putting your feet on the floor is a win. Washing a dish, not the dishes, a dish is a win. And so she listed off all of these very mundane things that you take for granted as wins. And it adds up to larger wins, which add up to larger wins, which add up to larger wins. And next thing you know, time will go by, you won't even notice it, and you will have been winning more than you were feeling like you're losing. And it's great advice.
Those things are so like they're so helpful because as you're explaining that, all I could think about was like, you know what? How do you walk 100 miles one step at a time? How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? And like I'm always like, honestly, like I can imagine right now I'm trying to open my mouth as wide as possible so I can swallow the elephant in one bite.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, stop trying to eat a whole elephant, just one bite at a time. And when she said put it on the shelf, it took a weight off my shoulder. Yeah. My therapist was like, why is it so urgent? And I'm like, I'm just afraid that I'm not going to get a chance to finish everything. And I have to accept that I probably won't. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm all pro therapy, man. For anyone out there who is thinking about maybe, waffling on whether or not, do it. I mean, obviously try to find a good therapist. Not every therapist is the same, but geez, it's so helpful.
Yeah. As you said, Giuseppe, it's like one of the things that I really did experience is ones that didn't seem to get me.
Yeah.
And at first I thought it was probably me. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, no, I guess it's like any kind of relationship, you got to get someone that really gets you. It was funny, like the therapist that I found, actually, I was in therapy with my daughter. It was really therapy for her. Mm-hmm. But I'm sitting in and I'm hearing her say things. I'm like, I need that. So like when my daughter walked out, I'm like, can you work with adults? She said, I work with adults all the time. And she's been my therapist for 10 years now.
Beautiful.
And she always, and like, you know what? In fact, believe it or not, as soon as we get off this call, I got to set up an appointment for next week because we had a breakthrough last week. And then I'll go 3, 4, 5 months and not go back again. Mm-hmm. And I'd be in the same place because I haven't worked on it. She said, this time, Charlie, set it up for next week. So as soon as I get off the phone, I'm going to set it up because I feel better from the last conversation. And I feel so good that I'm like, I'll go several months instead of continuing on this program to keep working on myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't gone in a long time. It's been many years. And I do, if I'm being honest with you and the listener, Charlie, I probably could use a handful of weeks or months maybe to talk about, because there's one thing that my therapist, speaking of visualization, my goodness, the therapist that worked for me knew I was an artist and spoke to me in visual metaphor. Mm-hmm. She'd refer to depression as a fog, and she'd help me sort of literally see it in my mind's eye. It was so helpful. But there's one thing that I really do struggle with that I probably could use a couple therapy sessions to help me untangle this knot, and that is letting go of the past. I'm very bad at that. Mm-hmm. But work on that. Yeah. It's all about self-love, And
that's for me, it's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
It's like, I really struggle with, I told my wife, it's like, I hear this voice all the time saying, I love you. And I'm like, I don't know whose voice it is. She said, could it be you speaking to you? And I struggled with that. I felt really uncomfortable with, that could be me talking to me. But that sounds like a narcissist or something. Right. And I felt really uncomfortable. I'm like, but it starts with loving yourself. And so like, that was one of those things like, except Charlie, when you hear I love you in your head, that's you talking to you and you deserve love. I don't know how this became a therapy session, but it has changed me in such a great way because loving myself has been the hardest thing almost one of the hardest things I've ever had to do.
Me too. Here's a psychologically rattling exercise. You ready for this one?
Mm-hmm, sure.
You and the listener, ready? Mm-hmm. Imagine the art you've made could talk. Okay? Mm-hmm. What would it say about you and how you've treated it?
Wow.
I tried this the other day, man, and I didn't last 30 seconds before I had to turn my attention to something else. It was not pretty.
Oh, you know what? See, the thing is, I'm having this experience right now because I'm in my studio and I'm looking around.
Yeah.
And all I see is like so much of a love that I don't show anywhere else. Almost like I hear these canvases saying, thank you for presenting me. Yeah. Thank you for making me. And this love coming out of, and I'm like, wow, like it's pretty intense right now. It's really intense right now. Looking at like all the stuff that I hold into me that comes out on canvas, but nowhere else.
Yeah.
Wow.
This podcast is produced by the Illustration Department, a global leader in online education for illustrators. Visit illustrationdept.com for offerings like mentorships and portfolio reviews, testimonials, our alumni showcase, our best-selling Substack, and more. That's illustrationdept.com. And now, back to our conversation. Speaking of love, something I've been talking a little bit about on the podcast of late and more in depth with illustrators that I mentor is my way late in life realization that art making is not a monologue, but rather a dialogue. Basically, through the marks you make, the lines, the colors, you, the artist, are communicating with the art. And in turn, it communicates back to you.
Yeah.
When things are going bad, when things are going poorly, you're likely forcing the art to do something it doesn't want to do. Or you're putting way too much pressure on it. Like, this piece has to be good, quote unquote good. It has to be a portfolio piece. It has to get me more followers or a job or whatever. What's your take on this? Do we have a relationship with our work?
Oh, absolutely. Too often, or so often, especially more in the fine art than the commercial art, because there's a control with art directors and everything when it comes to me doing the children books. But when I'm doing my work, sometimes I'm not sure why I'm doing it. And sometimes it takes a while for me to look at it and say, oh, I get it. I understand. You know what I mean? And it's like, and I tell the story a lot of times when I say that we, especially when creating fine art, personal work, that you're merely a vessel, that you are listening to a greater source and channeling that greater source when it comes to your creativity. But there are times I've created things that, like, I have no idea what I'm trying to say here. And then I'll look at it and I'll get it fully. And then I want to, oddly, take complete credit for it and say, look at me and look how great I am and look how deep I am. And I'm like, and it's not me. And like, I don't know where that came from. And then it's like more of us looking at God or looking at the ancestors or something and say, thank you. Thank you for giving me that. I didn't realize until this moment that I needed this. But there's a lot of oddly love in looking at my space right now and the expression of the art that's come through me.
Yeah. For any Disney fans, especially if you're into like 1950s Disney, Beauty and the Beast, Lady and the Tramp, Peter Pan, there's a background artist who's come up from time to time on this podcast. His name is Ivan Earl. He says art is the search for truth. And I suppose it depends on what kind of art we're talking about, but generally I agree. Do you?
Yes. I think that art, like it's really weird. Like, even as a fine artist, it's like, I hate writing artist statements. And the reason for that is that I am only telling you my truth. But quite honestly, I've had encounters where your truth is so much better than mine. And I don't want to limit your interpretation of something that I'm creating because I'm telling you my truth.
Right.
And so, but I am like, I find myself a lot of times, I would rather write, instead of writing an artist statement, I would rather ask the question. This is my artist question. What do you think? You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's an author and artist. His name is Makoto Fujimura. He's got this great quote on essentially the intersection of art, truth, and faith. He says, artists throughout the centuries have sought to tap into the transcendent by their creating. The language of the arts, it can be argued, is a language born of faith. Full transparency here. I was once a Catholic. I like to refer to myself as a retired Catholic. But I do love the mythology of religion, and I do love the idea of another of an outside energy and that. But I do like this idea that it's. I mean, I can relate to the faith part from a less like lowercase f. Being an artist is absolutely an act of faith.
Right. Yeah.
In yourself, in the system, in society, in a lot of things.
It's been said many times. I think John F. Kennedy was one that said it. It's like, it's our duty as artists to reflect the current times. And right now, that was one of the things talking to a therapist about. It's like, I have a lot of feelings about current times, but even the responsibility of trying to express it brought more pressure on me than I felt in a long time.
Right.
And so I finally had to say, I'm going to pass on this because I can't delve too deeply into it because I'm afraid of what's going to come out of it. If that makes any sense. It's
Sure.
like I had an assignment once that had to do with slavery.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to say to the client, I can't do this. If I was to express slavery as I know of it and have read about it, and I've done a lot of reading on it, I've had so many experiences with it, it would be so incredibly deep and painful, and I'd have to dig very deep to do that, that it could linger for too long, and I might not be able to recover. Or I can empower it and create these powerful images and these spiritual images, and I think that would be a lie. So I can't do either. So I kind of and then my client thought it was more of a negotiating for more money. And so they offered me more money. I'm like, I really have to pass on this because I can't do it. But I was fortunate enough to kind of I spoke to the client and said, can I recommend someone that I think would be great for this? Mm-hmm. And they said, sure. And I called them up, told them what I was doing and what I had decided to pass on it. And they did it. And when they brought the book to me, it was like, wow, you were supposed to do this. You captured some of the things that I would not have been able to, but it wasn't crushing. It was just truth. Right. And so it's like, so I trust in certain situations that this job wasn't meant for me. And the next assignment will be there. It's like again, going back to my therapist, and she asked me, she says like, what is your mentality when it comes to taking on assignments? I said, there was a time where I took everything because I didn't know when the next job was coming. But now I'm like, nah, I have to feel it. I have to be able to imagine it. I have to connect with it. And if I can't, I will respectfully decline, knowing that this assignment wasn't meant for me. But why would I tie myself up with an assignment that won't allow me time to do the assignment that I've been waiting for? And I found that to be truth in a lot of my experiences.
Yeah. Is it an oversimplification to say it needs to inspire you?
I think it's pretty much it. Do I feel it? Like if I read this manuscript, can I see the character? And like, nah, I can't. You know what? Andre 3000's the album, the jazz flute kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I tried over and over because I love Andre. I tried so hard to like it. And I'm like, why should I have to try hard to like something? You either do or you don't. Yeah. And so it's like, I am simply not connecting to it. And I'm not saying it's not a good album. I'm just saying it's not for me. Yeah. And that's the thing with anything. It's like if you go to, like I took a friend of mine who's never been to an art museum, and I watched them respond in a way. It's like, yes, that's what it's supposed to be. It's like, I know a lot of times you're hesitant to go into an environment that you're not comfortable with, but just be you in that environment and you will discover some truth. Mm-hmm. And I watched him, and he at times would turn to me and say, Charlie, like, I really like this piece. And I'd ask, like, why? And I said, and your answer is not wrong because it's your experience. But what he saw, actually, one of the pieces really taught me, because like one of the pieces in the particular exhibit that we were looking at, I did not like. Mm-hmm. And it was that I felt the face should have been fleshed out more, right? Mm-hmm. It was a painting of a homeless person holding up a sign saying food. And I'm like, but you can't see his face. Why? I would think he should be anguished or it's like something. And it's like, you know what? And someone walked up and said, you know, the homeless aren't seen. And it's like, oh, shit. Yes. This is amazing. It's absolutely right. And it was like that person coming up and saying that helped me to see this piece differently.
Exactly. Isn't that amazing? I do often wonder. That's not true. I don't often wonder. I occasionally wonder what it would feel like for me or for artists in general to have a day where we don't have our artist's eyes. We have non-artist's eyes. In other words, we have eyes of a person who has never studied art, doesn't even know the difference between Ellsworth Kelly and Botticelli. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Right.
How would they view art if they were to walk into a museum? How does that differ from how you and I view art? And here's a perfect example. I'm sitting right now talking to you, and I have a cup of tea here, and I'm looking at the inside of the cup of tea, and I'm noticing how yellow the water is. I'm noticing the color of the water. Would someone who has zero visual inclination at all notice that? And does that burden us sometimes as artists? Like, do we always, is it easy or hard? Well, I can only speak for myself. I find it challenging to go to a museum and just enjoy the art for what it is. I often will look at the art and get as close as the security guards will allow me and study the brush strokes and why did that line go there, and more analytically, and it's exhausting sometimes.
You know, I agree. I remember a friend of mine he's an art broker. Yeah. He represented me in the past, and one of the things he said to me one day that was truly fascinating to me. He said, "Charlie, I've had 25 different artists in my house, and you and one other artist are the only ones that took the time to look at the art on the wall." And that baffled me. Like as an artist, wouldn't you want to kind of see what somebody else is doing? Wouldn't you want to try to dissect it? Wouldn't you want to? But it's never crossed my mind of what it would be like to not see the world as I see it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like being self-centered or anything like that.
No.
Because I also realize the oddity of how I am sometimes when I'm talking to my wife and we're watching a movie. And I'm like, that's a really nice painting behind him. And she said, what painting? How did you know? I'm like, I can't turn this off. But you know what it reminded me of, and I remember years ago, a police officer saying that when you're a police, even when you're off duty, you're still working.
Yeah. Sure.
Like you're always observing, you're always looking, you're noticing something suspicious over there. And it's like, yes, that's what it is like for me. I'm always studying colors, compositions. I'm looking at the sky and like, that's a nice color. I got to remember that. That kind of thing. Yeah. And I can't imagine what it's like to move and not notice those little subtle things that you might be able to apply somewhere.
It's interesting. I sometimes wonder, like, gosh, just for a day, I don't want to have to look at a sky and wonder what color I would mix in oils to hit that color.
But the thought of that is sad to me.
Yeah,
you know
it's
what
a little sad. Sure.
Because for me, it's those little tiny things that I really love. That sometimes I feel like the oddball because like, do you see that? Look at that! Isn't that wonderful? And everybody else is like, what the hell is he talking about?
Dude.
I'm like, I don't know how to turn this off.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's like I'll be moving around and I'll see a beautiful child or something, and I saw like the little creepy person and like, your child is like so beautiful. I would love to paint her. I would love to paint him. Or even like, you know, I'm a straight man, but there are times I'll look at a man and it's like, wow, look at his face. And it's like, it's just weird. It's like, hey, you know, I have to say, preference it with, listen, I'm not gay, but it's like, no, I love beauty.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And beauty in so many weird kind of interesting forms that like something that was like, that's beautiful to you. I'm like, I don't know why, and I can't even explain to you why that's beautiful, but I can't take my eyes off of that.
Oh,
that is this gorgeous color or form or something. I took a class a weekend and a half ago, and it was cool because I took it with my daughter. But it was an artist who does sculpture, and he's so incredibly knowledgeable. He's such a great teacher. Everything he was saying, I say as a teacher, as a painter. Mm-hmm. But when I stepped into a space doing three-dimensional objects, sculpture, it all just fell out my ear. I mean, it fell out my eyes. It was like everything that I know went away. And I'm like, why is it that I cannot? And he said to me, when you're painting, Charlie, I see your confidence and I see how fluid you are and everything. But you get in here on this clay and you're overworking, your forming is hesitant. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I realized after that class, I have to do this more often because I need that natural, fluid thing to happen when I'm doing a sculpture, as I know I experience with no hesitation as a painter.
Right. I feel seen a little bit here. Speaking of eyes, just thank goodness that other people, and I want to be very crystal clear here. I'm not saying that people who aren't artists can't see the beauty that artists see. I want to be very clear here. I'm sure they can. Of course they can. Nobody come after me or cancel me. It's been well documented that Ezra Jack Keats in his book, The Snowy Day, was a key source of inspiration for you. There weren't many books at the time that depicted a black family, period, let alone in a non-racist, non-stereotypical way. When I try to guess who might have inspired you, I see a range, and I'm going to see if this is hit or miss. Maybe I'll hit a couple of these, maybe win a stuffed animal or something. I see Ernest Crichlow, who's referred to as a social realist. I see Lois Mailou Jones, one of the great American painters of the 20th century, who broke through racist walls in the fine art world. I see a dab of the Brandywine School. I see a little Mark English. Am I close?
You know, that's funny. That's funny. You know what? Out of everybody you mentioned, I know them all. And the one you're correct on is absolutely Mark English.
Mark English.
Yes.
Ding, ding. All right. I didn't get a stuffed animal. I got like a tiny plastic frog or something.
And see, but I loved a lot of fine artists, but there were like for me, I'm familiar with Barney Fuchs.
Oh gosh, yeah.
All right, so Barney Fuchs, Bart Forbes, Mark English. Yeah. I never met, but he is Norman Rockwell.
Oh yeah.
I think one of the greatest painters of all time.
Of course,
Norman Rockwell, and it wasn't only his ability, but it was his ability to tell a scene, to illustrate a scene. You know, like even like a Leyendecker. I just saw a documentary on Leyendecker.
Oh, I see Leyendecker a little bit. Yeah.
Two of my favorite writers is oddly older writers. It's like Edgar Allan Poe was a genius. He was like one of the first original rappers to me. It was his cadence and his style in which he wrote that moved like music, right? And then James Baldwin was this idea where he was fearless in his approach. And both of them are people that really inspire me. Just as like today, Kendrick Lamar, he inspires me to do better. And it's like, this man has the same access to words as I do, but his use of them is amazing to me. Some of these people had the same medium, or it's like I'm reminded of Michael Jordan, Spike Lee, or Mars, and it's like it's not the shoes. It's not the shoes. You can get the best brushes out there, but if you don't know, you won't do it. You know, you can have the same medium. So it's not, hey Charlie, what brand do you use? It's like, it's not the brand. It's like years of painting that has gotten me here. Yeah. And so don't make the assumption that it must be like that model that really inspired me or that brand or that brush. Because I do use very cheap brushes because I'm also very abusive towards my brushes. And so it's not like I was showing, like I brought in my class to hang out at the studio one day and somebody gifted me these extremely expensive brushes. And they gifted them to me about 4.5 years ago. And I've never used them because I can't justify, using these really expensive brushes. So they're there for display, but it's not the brushes because I really abuse those quite a bit. So if
your brushes could talk, they'd say a lot about you.
They would be like, oh no, please leave me here because I know I won't last much longer if you start using me. Right?
Tell my family I love them. Meanwhile, you're
right. Right. I don't know if you follow me on social media, but I posted this weekend. I had a dryer that I've had for over 30 years, a hand dryer. Yeah. And it burnt out on Saturday or Sunday where I turned it on and sparks came out. And I'm like, oh no. And I'm looking at it and my first thought was it's dead and I got to throw it out. And I'm like, no.
Hell no.
So I put it on the wall, took a picture of it, and then I moved it to another place where I'm going to hang it because this hand dryer has been with me at least 30 years. And it was weird because I was moved by it and a little distraught with the idea of throwing it out. I'm like, I can't use it ever again, but this thing has been with me for a long time.
Same, Charlie. I would have done the exact same thing. It would have broken my heart if I had thrown it away.
Yeah. And I almost did. And I'm like, it's no longer functional, but it is. It reminds me of all the years of having it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, speaking of truths, what would you say to people listening who may be trying to find their truth with their work, who may want to be an illustrator and a fine artist? What piece of advice or insight or lesson or anything that you'd like to share with them directly?
Be still and take time to truly find and recognize and acknowledge your voice, because it's very difficult when there's so much noise out there to be heard. But I think if you're still, you will know, because I think your voice comes from your heart. Mm-hmm. And so really just be still and listen. And in that, and I've seen it happen so many times in my years of teaching or mentoring, when I've seen a student find, or an artist find their voice. And it's like, ooh, I haven't seen that before. That is a little bit of that. There's a little bit of this. There's a little bit of that. In that combination of things, you found yourself. You know, and I'm reading a book right now by a friend of mine. It's called No One is Self-Made. And I'm like, I have been saying that to artists for years. There's no such thing as a self-taught artist. I said, in fact, when you are saying that you are a self-taught artist, that is arrogance. That's ego. That's you trying to claim that you did this by yourself. Nobody does this by yourself. Unless you're living on an island where there are no other creative people on any kind of level, are you self-taught? Mm-hmm. Because you're influenced and inspired by those things around you. Even if you're, I think, on an island by yourself, the nature will inspire you. And so there's something there other than self. And so I think that's the other thing. Is like, I think it's very important that young artists or older artists that are really trying to pursue this is trust your spirit, trust your message, but also see if you can, as much as possible, feed off the creativity of others around you. Feeding off of others is different than copying off of others.
To learn more about Charly, visit charlypalmer.com. If you find value in this podcast, you can support it by subscribing to my best-selling Substack. For $5 a month or $50 a year, you will access hundreds of articles on the art, practice, and history of illustration, unlock bonus podcast episodes called Extra Credit, and connect with other members of the ID community. Join me on Substack by visiting illustrationdept.substack.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.